High Counselor Thren Voss stood before the massive viewing screen in the Zilani command center. His blue skin had turned pale with worry as he watched the red dots on the star map. Each red dot was a Korthok warship, and there were far too many of them. "How many ships do they have now?" he asked his military advisor. "Over 60 warships, sir," replied Commander Yelen Kreese. "They destroyed the Myra colony yesterday. 20,000 Zilani died." Thren closed his eyes and felt sick. The Zilani people had lived in peace for over 300 years. They were healers and teachers, not fighters. Their small defense fleet was meant to stop pirates and help with emergencies, not fight a real war. The Korthok Empire was different. They were big, strong, and loved war. They attacked planets, took everything valuable, and made the people into slaves. For months, they had been moving through Zilani space like a dark storm. "What about our defense fleet?" Thren asked. "We have 12 ships left," Yelen said quietly. "The Korthok destroyed the others at Sigma Base 3 days ago. 12 ships against 60. Thren knew those were terrible odds. The Korthok ships were also bigger and had stronger weapons. His people were going to lose this war unless something changed quickly. "Sir, we have another problem," said Communication Officer Mira Wells. "The Korthok are moving toward our home planet. Our computers say they will be here in 4 days. 4 days. Thren felt the weight of millions of lives on his shoulders. The Zilani homeworld had over 50 million people. Most of them could not be moved to safety in 4 days. "Have we heard back from the other species?" Thren asked. 2 weeks ago, they had sent messages asking for help to every known space-traveling race. The Altea Republic sent one small ship with medical supplies, Myra said. The Centauri Federation said they cannot help because they are too far away. The others have not answered at all. Thren was not surprised. Most of the galaxy was afraid of the Korthak Empire. The Korthak had conquered 12 different species over the past 50 years. No one wanted to be next on their list. "What about the humans?" asked Yelm. "Humans?" Thren had almost forgotten about them. 2 years ago, the Zilani had made first contact with a species from a small planet called Earth. The humans seemed friendly but primitive. They only had one planet and a small number of spaceships. "They might help," Myra said. The human ambassador, John Clark, said his people believe in helping others. Thren thought about it. The humans had seemed very different from other species. They asked lots of questions and were very curious about everything. But they were also new to space travel. What could they do against the mighty Korthok Empire? Send them a message, Thren decided. Send it to everyone again. Tell them we need help now, or the Zilani people will be destroyed. While Mira sent the emergency message across the galaxy, Thren walked to another part of the command center. Through the large windows, he could see the beautiful blue and green planet below. It was home to his people for thousands of years. Soon, it might be a smoking ruin. The door opened behind him. His daughter Keela walked in. She was only 20 years old and worked as a doctor in the capital city. "Father, are the reports true?" she asked. "Are the Korthok really coming here?" Thren turned and hugged his daughter. "Yes, they are coming, but we are trying everything we can to stop them." "I heard you sent messages asking for help. Will anyone come?" "I do not know," Thren said honestly. "The galaxy is a dangerous place. Most species only care about themselves." Kella was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What about the humans? I read about them in school. They seem different from the others." "Different how?" "Their history books say they fight wars to help other people, not just for themselves. They have something called the United Nations that tries to keep peace on their planet." Thren smiled sadly. "Those are nice ideas, but the humans are very new to space. They probably have only a few small ships. What could they do against the Korthak?" On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Jack Peterson sat in his office on Earth. He was reading the Zilani message for the 3rd time. The message was clear. The Zilani people were about to be destroyed, and they needed help immediately. Jack had met some Zilani diplomats 2 years ago, when Earth made first contact. They were peaceful, intelligent people who shared their medical knowledge freely. They had helped Earth cure several diseases, and had asked for nothing in return. Now, they were going to die unless someone helped them. Jack picked up his communication device and called Director Lisa Morgan, the head of Earth's Defense Council. "Lisa, have you seen the Zilani message?" he asked. "Yes, I just read it. It sounds terrible. But Jack, what can we do? We only have 15 warships, and they are asking us to fight an empire with 60 ships. Maybe we cannot win," Jack said, "but we have to try. The Zilani helped us when they did not have to. Now they need our help." "The Defense Council is meeting in 1 hour," Lisa said. "Come and present your case." Jack looked out his window at the Earth below. In the past 2 years, since learning they were not alone in the universe, humanity had worked hard to build better spaceships and weapons. They had learned that space could be a dangerous place, but they had also learned something else. With great power comes great responsibility. If Earth had the ability to help innocent people, then they had the duty to help them. Jack stood up and put on his uniform. It was time to convince the Defense Council that Earth should answer the Zilani call for help, even if it meant war with the most dangerous empire in the galaxy. The Defense Council meeting room was full of Earth's most important military leaders. Admiral Jack Peterson stood at the front, showing pictures of the Korthok attack on a large screen. The images were terrible: burning cities, destroyed ships, and people running for their lives. "The Zilani have been our friends since first contact," Jack said to the room. "They shared their medical knowledge with us and saved thousands of lives. Now they need our help." General Carl Thompson raised his hand. "Admiral, I feel sorry for the Zilani, but we have to be realistic. The Korthok Empire has 60 warships. We have 15. That is not a fair fight." "Since when do humans only fight fair fights?" Jack asked. "Our history is full of times when small forces beat larger ones through better planning and new ideas." Director Lisa Morgan leaned forward in her chair. "What exactly are you proposing, Jack? Send our best ships and our best crews to help the Zilani, show the galaxy that Earth keeps its promises." "And if we lose all our ships?" asked General Thompson. "Then Earth has no defense at all." Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "If we do nothing, and the galaxy sees that Earth does not help its friends, then we will have no friends at all. Sometimes doing the right thing is more important than being safe." The room was silent. Everyone knew that Jack was right, but they also knew the risks. If Earth's fleet was destroyed, their planet would be defenseless. Director Morgan stood up. "I am calling for a vote. All those in favor of sending military aid to the Zilani Republic." 8 hands went up. 5 hands stayed down. It was close, but the vote passed. "Admiral Peterson, you have permission to send a relief fleet to Zilani space," Lisa said. "Choose your ships and crews carefully. The future of Earth's reputation in the galaxy depends on this mission." 2 hours later, Captain Dan Foster was in his quarters on the EU's Valiant when his communication device rang. Dan was 42 years old and had been in the Space Navy for 15 years. He was known as one of Earth's best ship captains. "Captain Foster, report to Admiral Peterson's office immediately," said the voice. Don put on his uniform and walked quickly through the space station. He had a feeling this was about the Zilani situation. Every person on the station had been talking about it. Admiral Peterson's office was busy with officers and computers. Jack looked up when Dan entered. "Dan, I need you to lead a mission to Zilani's space. The Defense Council has approved military aid." "How many ships, sir?" Dan asked. 12. I am keeping 3 ships here to protect Earth." Dan thought about this. 12 human ships against 60 Korthok warships. The odds were still terrible, but at least they had a chance. Which ships? Dan asked. The Valiant will be your flagship. Commander Kate Sullivan will take the UES Defender, our heaviest ship. Captain Mike Barnes gets the UES Ranger. The rest will be escort ships with our newest weapons. Dan nodded. The Defender was Earth's most powerful warship, with thick armor and big guns. The Ranger was fast and good for hit-and-run attacks. The escort ships were smaller, but had the latest missile systems. What about our new weapons? Don asked. Can we use them? Jack smiled. Yes. The rail guns, nuclear missiles, and AI targeting systems are all approved for combat. Show the galaxy what human technology can do. While Dan was getting his orders, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was in the navigation center, studying star maps. Amy was 28 years old, and the best space navigator in the Earth fleet. She could calculate jump coordinates faster than most computers. Amy, we need jump coordinates to the Zilani home system, said her assistant ensign, Tom Davis. Amy looked at the star charts. The Zilani system was far away, but their new FTL drives could make the trip in 18 hours. Most other species needed 3 days to travel the same distance. I can get us there, Amy said. But jumping into a battle zone is dangerous. If we come out of FTL too close to enemy ships, they might destroy us before we can fight back. What do you suggest? We jump to the edge of the system and scan for enemy positions. Then we make a smaller jump to wherever we want to fight. Amy started working on the complex calculations. Each jump through FTL space required perfect math. One small mistake could send the ships thousands of light years in the wrong direction. On the Zilani homeworld, High Counselor Thren Voss was trying to organize an evacuation. Millions of people needed to leave the planet, but there were not enough ships. How many people can we move? He asked his transportation chief. Maybe 5 million, if we use every ship we have, was the answer. But that leaves 45 million people on the planet. Thren felt sick. No matter what they did, most of his people would be left behind when the Korthok arrived. Commander Young Kreese ran into the room. Sir, we just received a message from Earth. What do they say? Thren asked quickly. They are sending 12 warships to help us. The ships will arrive in less than 20 hours. Thren was surprised. He had not expected the humans to respond so quickly, or with so many ships. 12 ships was almost their entire fleet. 12 ships, Thren said. That is very brave, but still not enough against 60 Korthok vessels. Maybe, Yeld said, but the humans have surprised everyone before. Remember, they went from no space, travel to FTL drives in only 50 years. Their technology might be better than we think. Thren hoped his friend was right. The Zilani needed a miracle, and maybe the humans could provide one. Captain Dan Foster stood on the bridge of the UES Valiant as his crew prepared for departure. Around him 12 of Earth's best warships were getting ready to jump to FTL. It was the largest human fleet ever sent to another star system. All ships report ready, Captain, said his first officer, Commander Lisa Hayes. Amy, are the jump coordinates locked in? Dan asked. Yes, sir. 18 hours to the Zilani system. Dan took a deep breath. In less than a day, they would be fighting for the lives of 50 million innocent people. The odds were against them, but humans had never been good at accepting defeat. All ships, this is Captain Foster. We are going to help our friends and show the galaxy what Earth stands for. Jump on my command. Don paused, then said the words that would change galactic history forever. All ships, jump. 12 human warships disappeared into FTL space, racing toward what might be the most important battle in Earth's history. The human fleet dropped out of FTL space at the edge of the Zilani system. Captain Dan Foster stared at the main screen and felt his heart sink. The Korthok invasion fleet was even bigger than the reports had said. 60 massive warships surrounded the blue and green Zilani, Homeworld like hungry wolves. My God, whispered Commander Lisa Hayes, his first officer. Look at the size of those ships. The Korthak vessels were huge, almost twice as long as Earth's biggest warships. Their dark metal hulls were covered with weapon ports and armor plating. They looked like they were built for one purpose: destroying other ships. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the Zilani planet, said Communication Officer Ben Wright. Put it on screen, Dan ordered. The face of High Counselor Thren Voss appeared on the main viewer. The alien leader looked tired and worried, but his eyes brightened when he saw the human captain. Captain Foster, thank you for coming. I did not think anyone would answer our call for help. The people of Earth do not abandon their friends, Dan said. What is the current situation? The Korthok have not attacked the planet yet, but they are demanding our surrender. If we do not give up in 6 hours, they will begin bombing our cities. Dan studied the tactical display. The Korthok ships were in a loose formation around the planet. They looked confident, like they thought no one would dare challenge them. We will do what we can to help, Dan told Thren. Keep your people in the shelters. Just as Dan was about to close the channel, another face appeared on the screen. This alien was very different from the peaceful Zilani. He had gray skin, sharp teeth, and angry red eyes. This was clearly a Korthok. I am War Leader Grath Morgul of the Korthok Empire, the alien said in a harsh voice. You are the humans, yes. You will leave this system immediately, or we will destroy your tiny ships. Dan looked at the Korthok commander calmly. I am Captain Dan Foster of the Earth Defense Fleet. We demand that you withdraw from Zilani space and leave these people in peace. Grath Morgul laughed, showing his sharp teeth. 12 little ships against the might of the Korthok Empire. You primitives know nothing about real war. I will teach you a lesson that the rest of the galaxy will remember. The transmission ended. Dan turned to his crew. All right, people, you heard him. Red alert. All ships, prepare for battle. The bridge of the Valiant came alive with activity. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez worked at her navigation station, plotting attack courses. Weapons Officer Tony Martinez checked their railguns and missile systems. Chief Engineer Sarah Park made sure their power systems were running perfectly. Captain, the Korthok are moving, reported Tactical Officer Kevin Hall. 20 ships are breaking away from the main fleet and heading toward us. They are testing us, Dan said. They want to see what we can do before they send their whole fleet. Should we retreat? Asked Commander Hayes. No. We came here to fight, and that is what we are going to do. Amy, set course for the incoming Korthok ships. All ships, follow the Valiant's lead. The human fleet moved forward to meet the Korthok attack. The 20 enemy ships were spread out in a line, their energy weapons charging for battle. They moved slowly and confidently, like they had done this 1,000 times before. Sir, they are firing, Kevin called out. Bright blue energy beams shot out from the Korthok ships. The beams were powerful, but they moved in straight lines and were easy to see coming. Dan watched the attack carefully. Amy, evasive maneuvers. Don't let them lock onto us. The Valiant twisted and turned through space, avoiding the energy beams. The other human ships did the same, moving like dancers instead of big, slow targets. Their weapons are powerful, but not very accurate, Dan observed. Tony, return fire. All ships, engage. The human ships opened fire with their rail guns. These weapons were different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of energy beams, they fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speed. The projectiles were small, but they hit with the force of a meteor. The first Korthok ship to be hit shook violently as the railgun rounds punched through its armor. The alien commander had never seen weapons like this before. What are those? Weapons, Grath Morgul demanded from his flagship. They are using solid projectiles. The humans are more primitive than we thought, said his tactical officer. They still use kinetic weapons instead of energy. But the Korthok were about to learn that sometimes old ideas work better than new ones. The human railguns fired faster than Korthok energy weapons and did not need time to recharge. More importantly, solid metal was much harder to stop than energy beams. Captain Mike Barnes, commanding the UES Ranger, led a group of escort ships around the side of the Korthok formation. All escort ships, fire missiles on my command. The small human ships launched a wave of guided missiles. These were not the simple rockets that most species used. These missiles had small computers inside them that could think and change direction to hit their targets. The Korthok tried to shoot down the missiles with their defensive weapons, but there were too many of them. The missiles twisted and turned through space, avoiding the defensive fire and hitting the Korthok ships from unexpected angles. One by one, the Korthok vessels began to suffer damage. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid projectiles moving at incredible speed. The human weapons cut through their defenses like knives through paper. Impossible, Grathmorgul shouted. How are these primitives defeating our ships? Commander Kate Sullivan, aboard the heavy cruiser U.S. Defender, moved her ship into the center of the battle. The Defender was built like a fortress, with thick armor and powerful weapons. 3 Korthok ships concentrated their fire on her, but she kept fighting. Hull damage on decks 4 and 5, reported her damage control officer. Keep firing, Kate ordered. Show them what Earth steel can do. The Defender's main guns fired continuously, each shot hitting a different target. The ship's AI computer calculated the best attack angles and shared the information with the gunners instantly. It was like having the smartest tactical genius in the galaxy helping with every shot. After 2 hours of fighting, the battle was over. 15 of the 20 Korthok ships had been destroyed or badly damaged. The surviving 5 ships retreated back to the main fleet, their commanders shocked by what they had seen. The human fleet had only suffered minor damage. The EU's Defender needed some repairs, and 2 escort ships had damaged weapons. But no human ships had been destroyed. On planets across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. The species that everyone thought were primitive had just defeated a major Korthok attack force. The impossible had happened. Grathmorgul stared at his tactical screen in rage and disbelief. His mighty Korthok warriors had been beaten by newcomers to space. It was the first time his forces had ever been defeated in battle. War leader, what are your orders? Send every ship we have. I want those humans destroyed. All of them, Captain. Dan Foster watched the surviving Korthok ships retreat and knew this was only the beginning. The real battle was about to start. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy like lightning. On a dozen different worlds, alien leaders watched the battle recordings with amazement. The species they had dismissed as newcomers had just destroyed 15 Korthok warships without losing a single vessel. In the Altair Republic, President Nex Talron called an emergency meeting. How is this possible? The humans only discovered space travel 50 years ago. Their weapons are completely different from ours, said his military advisor. They use solid projectiles instead of energy beams. Our intelligence was wrong about their capabilities. On the Centauri Federation homeworld, Admiral Quinn Vollex studied the tactical data. Look at how they coordinate their attacks. Their ships move together like a single organism. How do they communicate so quickly? Meanwhile, in the Zalani system, war leader Grathmorgul was preparing for the biggest battle of his career. His pride had been wounded, and now he wanted revenge. No primitive species was going to embarrass the mighty Korthok Empire. Send every ship, he ordered his fleet commanders. I want 40 vessels attacking those humans. Leave 20 ships to guard the planet in case they try to escape. On the bridge of the EU's Valiant, Captain Dan Foster watched the Korthok fleet reorganize. The enemy ships were forming into a massive attack formation, preparing to overwhelm the human fleet with sheer numbers. Sir, they are committing almost their entire fleet, reported Tactical Officer Kevin Hall. 40 ships, moving toward us. Dan looked at his crew. They had just won an impossible victory, but this next battle would be even harder. 40 ships against 12 was terrible odds, even for humans. Open a channel to all human ships, Dan ordered. The faces of his ship captains appeared on the main screen. Commander Kate Sullivan looked determined despite the damage to her ship. Captain Mike Barnes was checking his weapon status. The other captains looked ready for another fight. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to face the full power of the Korthok fleet, Dan said. They outnumber us more than 3 to 1. But we have something they do not have. The ability to think differently. What is the plan, Captain? Asked Kate Sullivan. Dan smiled. We are going to do something no sane military commander would ever try. Amy, I need you to calculate a micro-jump directly into the center of their formation. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez looked up from her navigation station. Sir, that is extremely dangerous. If we make a mistake, we could appear inside one of their ships. That is why you are the best navigator in the fleet, Dan said. Can you do it? Amy thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, sir. I can get us there. Commander Hayes, prepare the nuclear warheads for detonation, Dan ordered. Lisa Hayes looked surprised. Nuclear weapons in space combat, sir. Not to destroy their ships directly, Dan explained. The electromagnetic pulse will disable their electronics. Korthok technology depends heavily on energy systems. If we can knock out their power, our conventional weapons can finish the job. The human fleet spread out into a loose formation as the Korthok attack force approached. The enemy ships moved in tight groups, their commanders confident that sheer numbers would win the battle. Captain Mike Barnes, commanding the UES Ranger, led the escort ships in a flanking maneuver. All escort ships, prepare missile barrage. We hit them from the side, while the Valiant creates chaos in the center. Commander, Kate Sullivan, despite the damage to the UES Defender, positioned her heavy cruiser to draw enemy fire. All power to forward shields. We are going to be the anvil, while the others are the hammer. As the two fleets closed to fighting distance, Grath Morgul opened communications with the human ships. You fought well in your first battle, humans, but now you face the full might of the Korthok Empire. Surrender now, and we will give you quick deaths. Thank you for the offer, Dan replied calmly, but we have a better idea. Why don't you surrender to us? Grath Morgul roared with anger and cut the transmission. All ships, attack. Destroy every human vessel. The space between the two fleets filled with weapons fire. Blue energy beams from the Korthok ships crossed, with silver railgun projectiles from the human vessels. The battle was fierce and chaotic, with ships twisting and turning to avoid enemy fire. Now, Amy, Dan shouted. The U's Valiant disappeared in a flash of light and reappeared in the exact center of the Korthok formation. Enemy ships were all around them, their weapons pointing outward at where the human fleet had been moments before. Nuclear warheads away, called Weapons Officer Tony Martinez. 6 nuclear missiles shot out from the Valiant in different directions. They were not aimed at specific ships, but at empty space between the Korthok vessels. When they exploded, the nuclear fire did little damage to the heavily armored alien ships. But the electromagnetic pulse was devastating. The invisible wave of energy spread out from each explosion, washing over the Korthok ships and shorting out their electronic systems. Lights went dark, weapons stopped firing, and engines shut down. In seconds, half the Korthok fleet was floating helplessly in space. All ships, concentrate fire on the disabled vessels, Dan ordered. The human fleet attacked with deadly precision. Their AI targeting systems, protected by special shielding, had not been affected by the electromagnetic pulse. Each human ship picked targets and fired with perfect accuracy. The UES Defender, despite her earlier damage, proved why she was called Earth's strongest warship. Kate Sullivan's crew fired their main guns continuously, each shot destroying or crippling a Korthok vessel. "Hull breach on Deck 3, reported her damage control officer as enemy fire found its mark. "Seal it off and keep firing," Kate ordered. "We are not done yet." Captain Mike Barnes led the escort ships in a coordinated missile attack. Wave after wave of guided missiles struck the disabled Korthok ships. The alien vessels, unable to defend themselves, were torn apart by the explosions. "This is impossible," Grath Morgul screamed from his flagship. His ship was one of the few that had not been disabled, but he watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. The battle turned into a slaughter. The Korthok ships that still had power tried to retreat, but the human vessels were faster and more maneuverable. One by one, the proud warships of the Korthok Empire were reduced to floating wreckage. In desperation, Grath Morgul ordered his flagship to ram the EU's Valiant. "If I am going to die, I will take their leader with me." But Tony Martinez was watching his screens carefully. "Captain, enemy flagship approaching on collision course." "Full reverse thrust," Dan ordered. "Amy, emergency evasive maneuvers." The Valiant twisted away from the charging Korthok flagship, but not quickly enough. The two ships scraped together in a shower of sparks and metal fragments. "Hull damage on the port side," reported Chief Engineer Sarah Park. "But all major systems are still operational." The Korthok flagship, damaged by the collision, spun out of control. Captain Mike Barnes, seeing an opportunity, led 3 escort ships in a final attack. Their missiles struck the enemy command ship from multiple directions. Grath Morgul had time for one last transmission before his ship exploded. "This is not over, humans. The Korthok Empire will remember this day." Then his ship disappeared in a ball of fire, taking the Korthok war leader with it. The space around the Zalani homeworld was now filled with the wreckage of 40 Korthok warships. The few surviving enemy vessels retreated to the edge of the system, their commanders too shocked to continue fighting. Captain Dan Foster looked at his tactical display and could hardly believe what he saw. The human fleet had faced impossible odds, and won. Not only won, but won decisively. "All ships report status," he ordered. One by one, his captains checked in. The EU's Defender needed major repairs, and several escort ships had suffered damage. But every human vessel was still combat-ready. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the Zalani planet," reported Ben Wright. High Counselor Thren Voss appeared on the screen, tears of joy running down his blue face. "Captain Foster, you have saved our world. How can we ever thank you?" Dan smiled tiredly. "No thanks needed, Counselor. Earth keeps its promises." As news of the second human victory spread across the galaxy, something fundamental changed in how other species viewed the newcomers from the small blue planet. The humans were no longer seen as primitive or weak. They were now recognized as the galaxy's newest military power, and they had won that recognition by doing something the galaxy had thought impossible: defeating the Korthok Empire in open battle. 3 weeks after the battle, the galaxy was a very different place. The news of humanity's victory over the Korthok Empire had reached every corner of known space. Species that had never heard of Earth before were now sending diplomatic messages to the small blue planet on the Zalani homeworld. Captain Dan Foster stood in the rebuilt capital city, watching construction crews repair the damage from the Korthok bombardment threats. The Zalani people had welcomed the human fleet as heroes, and High Counselor Thren Voss had declared a permanent alliance between their worlds. "Captain Foster, there is someone I want you to meet," said Thren as he approached with a young Zalani woman. "This is my daughter Keela. She has been organizing medical aid for your wounded crew members." Keela smiled and shook Dan's hand in the human fashion. "Your people saved our world, Captain. Many of our doctors want to learn about human medicine to help your injured sailors." "That is very kind," Dan replied. "Our ship's doctors are always interested in learning new techniques." The cooperation between humans and Zilani had grown quickly beyond just military matters. Zilani scientists were amazed by human technology, while human researchers were fascinated by Zilani medical advances. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez had spent days sharing navigation techniques with Zilani space pilots. Commander Kate Sullivan walked up to join the conversation. Her ship, the UES Defender, was in orbit getting major repairs from both human and Zilani engineers working together. "Captain, we just received a message from Admiral Peterson," Kate said. "3 more species have requested defense treaties with Earth. The Rigel Collective, the Vega Union, and the Tau Ceti Republic all want human protection against pirates and raiders." Dan was not surprised. Word had spread that humans were willing to fight to protect their allies. In a galaxy where most species only cared about themselves, this made Earth very popular with smaller, peaceful worlds. "What about the Korthok Empire?" Dan asked. "Their empire is collapsing," Kate reported. "Without their main invasion fleet, they cannot control their conquered territories. At least 6 species have rebelled and declared independence. The Korthok homeworld is asking for peace negotiations." This was the most amazing news of all. The Korthok Empire had been the galaxy's biggest threat for 50 years. Now, after one battle with humans, their power was broken forever. Captain Mike Barnes approached the group. His ship, the UES Ranger, had been exploring the outer Zilani system, making sure no more Korthok forces were hiding nearby. "Sir, we found something interesting," Mike said. "There are 3 Korthok supply ships hiding behind the 6th planet. They are flying white flags and requesting permission to surrender." "Surrendering to us?" Dan asked. "Yes, sir. Apparently, they heard what happened to their invasion fleet and decided they would rather be prisoners of the humans than face court-martial from their own empire." Don shook his head in amazement. A month ago, no one in the galaxy had heard of human military forces. Now, even enemy soldiers preferred to surrender to Earth rather than face their own commanders on Earth. Admiral Jack Peterson was dealing with a very different problem: too much success. His office was flooded with requests for military aid, trade agreements, and diplomatic meetings. Every day brought new messages from species asking for human help. Director Lisa Morgan entered his office carrying a stack of data. "Tablets. Jack, we have requests for help from 12 different worlds this week. Pirates are attacking the Deneb system. Slavers are raiding the Procyon colonies. And the Sirius Republic is asking for protection against something called the Crystal Syndicate." "We cannot help everyone," Jack said. "We only have 15 ships total, and 12 of them are still with Dan's fleet." "I know, but we cannot ignore these requests either. If we help our friends when they need us, they will help us when we need them." Jack looked at the star map on his wall. Red dots marked all the places where human help had been requested. There were far too many of them. "We need more ships," he decided. "Contact the Defense Council. Tell them we need to expand the fleet immediately." "How many ships?" Lisa asked. "At least 50 new vessels. If Earth is going to be the galaxy's protector, we need the tools to do the job." Back in the Zilani system, Don was preparing for his next mission. Intelligence reports showed that a group of space pirates was attacking merchant ships near the Altair Republic. The Altair government had specifically requested human assistance. "Sir, all ships report ready for departure," said Commander Lisa Hayes. Don nodded. The human fleet had become famous across the galaxy, but fame brought responsibilities. Every species now expected Earth to solve their problems. "Amy, set course for the Altair system," Dan ordered. "Maximum speed." As the human ships prepared to jump to FTL, High Counselor Thren Voss sent a final message to Dan's fleet. "Captain Foster, the Zilani people will never forget what Earth has done for us. You came when no one else would. You fought when victory seemed impossible. You gave us hope when we had none left." Dan smiled as he read the message. "Send a reply, Ben." Tell the counselor that Earth will always stand with the Zalani Republic. We may be from different worlds, but we share the same values. Thrin's daughter Keela had also sent a message to the human fleet. To all the brave humans who saved our world, you have shown the galaxy that sometimes the strong must protect the weak. This is a lesson we will never forget. The jump to FTL was smooth, and the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace. Their destination was a star system they had never visited, to help people they had never met, simply because it was the right thing to do. 6 months later, the Galactic Council met for the first time in 5 years. Representatives from over 30 species gathered on the neutral world of Nexus Prime to discuss the changing balance of power in the galaxy. Director Lisa Morgan sat at the council table as Earth's first official galactic ambassador. Around her were the leaders of species that had controlled galactic politics for centuries. Now, they were all looking at the representative of a world that had been unknown to most of them a year ago. Council Speaker Zen Vrathos called the meeting to order. We gather today to formally recognize Earth as a full member of the Galactic Council. In the past year, the human species has demonstrated both the military capability and moral character required for council membership. The humans have done more than that, said President Nex Tauron of the Altair Republic. They have reminded us what it means to help others without asking for anything in return. Admiral Quinn Valix of the Centauri Federation nodded in agreement. Human protection forces have eliminated pirate activity in 3 star systems and helped negotiate peaceful solutions to 2 border disputes. They have brought stability to regions that have known only conflict. Lisa stood to address the council. The people of Earth are honored to join this council. We did not seek to become a galactic power. We simply tried to help our friends when they needed us. And in doing so, you changed the galaxy forever, said Speaker Zen Vrathos. The age of might, making right, is ending. The age of cooperation and mutual aid is beginning. As the council meeting continued, reports came in from across the galaxy. The former Korthok territories were forming new democratic governments. Pirate activity had dropped to its lowest level in decades. Several species that had been enemies for generations were now working together on peaceful projects. The galaxy was becoming a safer, more peaceful place. And it had all started with one simple decision. When someone called for help, Earth answered. Later that day, Lisa received a message from Captain Dan Foster. His fleet was now operating out of a new base in Zalani space, responding to calls for help from across the galaxy. Lisa, we just finished helping the Vega Union deal with their pirate problem, Dan's message said. Tomorrow we are heading to the Rigel system to investigate reports of illegal slave trading. I wanted you to know that our reputation is spreading. 3 more species have asked to join our mutual defense network. Lisa smiled as she read the message. Earth had set out to help one species and ended up changing the entire galaxy. Sometimes doing the right thing had consequences no one could predict. The message continued. I know some people back home are worried about Earth taking on too many responsibilities. But I think we are doing exactly what we should be doing. When someone calls for aid, Earth answers. It is who we are. Lisa saved the message and looked out the window of her diplomatic quarters. In the distance, she could see ships from a dozen different species working together to build a new space station. Humans, Zalani, Altarians, and others were cooperating on projects that would benefit everyone. The galaxy had called for aid, and Earth had answered with warships. But more than that, Earth had answered with hope, courage, and the simple belief that good people should help each other. And that, Lisa thought, was the most human thing of all.